Hey everybody, Jeff Miller here, head of GMAT instruction for Target Test Prep. In today's video, we are going to talk about the best way to study for GMAT focus to maximize your score. I'm going to run through some steps, starting with how to get your preparation started, what to do in the middle, and of course, how to wrap it up. So let's get moving. Step 1, familiarize yourself with the questions and content tested on the GMAT. Now, you will take a practice test to get a baseline score, but just not yet. The first thing you got to do is you need to understand what's tested, how it's tested, what the sections look like. We have plenty of articles on this, so you can check them out to see the format and structure of GMAT Focus, and then look at the question types. In math, what is being tested? And remember, this is GMAT Focus, not classic GMAT. So there are things that aren't there that were with the previous GMAT, like no geometry, for example. You'll look at the math section. That's problem-solving questions. You'll see what's tested on the verbal section. That's going to be critical reasoning and reading comprehension. And then finally, you'll look at the data insight section, which, as you may recall from the classic GMAT, if you remember it, is a lot of integrated reasoning stuff, graphics interpretation, table analysis, three-part analysis, math, and verbal, and then of course multi-source reasoning. And then in the GMAT Focus, they also have data sufficiency questions. So get familiar with all that, and then you'll be geared up and ready to tackle your practice test. Step 2, take a practice test to get a baseline score. We've talked about familiarizing yourself, and I didn't mention it, but sure, do a few practice questions. Get kind of warmed up with how these questions are thrown at you, and then take the first free MBA.com GMAT Focus practice exam. This is important because this is going to be the groundwork for where you're at, and it's going to show you your starting point, and then here's the finish line. Here's how far I have to go. Take it under pretty realistic conditions. Don't pause the test. Don't try to take it over multiple days. Take it in a semi-public area if you're going to take it at the test center, like maybe a library. If you're going to take the online version, you can just take it at home or in your office and see where you're at. And again, don't be nervous. It doesn't matter what you score. It's just a starting point. It's just data that you need to see how you're going to move forward with your prep. Step 3, create a timeline. This is important because admissions have deadlines, right? So if you start your GMAT Focus preparation process 2 months before the deadlines and you realize you're 250 points away from your score goal, well, what does that mean? Well, it means I don't know if you're going to have enough time to get your score. So that's why you need a very realistic timeline. And as some general advice, make sure you give yourself more than enough time than you need. If you think you need 4 months, give yourself 6 months. If you think you need 6 months, give yourself 8 months. And it just means start the process early. Ideally, you're not starting in July for round 1 or round 2 deadlines of that year. Ideally, you're starting in, say, December or January for deadlines that are after the summer in September, October, or even December and January for round 2 deadlines. Point is, give yourself plenty of time so there's no stress in your preparation process, and then you'll be ready to rock on test day. Step 4, get awesome prep materials. If you don't know what's out there while you're watching this video, Target Test Prep is clearly out there. We have an awesome GMAT Focus course. If you're unsure of what to use though, just go to GMAT Club. Look at student reviews, look at student debriefs that talk about the process that they use to study for the GMAT. Talk to friends, talk to colleagues, even talk to MBA graduates who had studied a few years ago for the GMAT. See what worked well for them. When you have an idea, sign up for some trials. You don't have to pay for anything right away. You usually can get a free or low-cost trial so you can see what works best for you. And we'll talk about things to look for in a great GMAT prep course, or things that you should be doing with your studying anyway. One big thing is an awesome detailed study plan, and that's the next thing we're going to talk about in today's video. Step 5, and this is a biggie, create and follow, or use and follow, a topical, linear, structured study plan. I cannot tell you how many people are diving into GMAT Focus Prep thinking, okay, I'm going to get the latest official guide. I'm going to be a buzzsaw through this book. I'm just going to run through questions and then call it a day. The problem with that is that it's unorganized and you don't know where the finish line even is. So you need something that's super structured. On top of that, the thing you'll start realizing with the GMAT, and it doesn't matter which section, there is a lot you need to learn. So you've got to break it down incrementally, and you need to make sure you're doing what we love to call here at TTP, topical learning and practice. What does that mean? Well, it means you pick a topic. Let's say in math, it's linear and quadratic equations. You study the heck out of it. You learn about difference of squares. You learn about quadratic identities, foiling, factoring, you name it. Then you practice just that topic, and you go nuts with that practice until you feel like you fully learned it, and then you rinse and repeat with the next quant topic. You'll do the same with verbal. If you're learning critical reasoning, you'll do strengthen the argument questions and just those. If you're doing data insights, maybe you'll just do graphics interpretation questions. The point is, because there's so much granularity to these topics, you've got to learn them one at a time and practice them one at a time. Eventually, yes, you'll do mixed practice, and you can focus on the mixed practice when you learn a lot of this stuff. But to start, one topic at a time, learn it, practice it, master it, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. And if you can do that, you're going to feel like you're incrementally learning and climbing that GMAT ladder till you get to the top. That is what you want to look for in a study plan. Whether you create it or whether the course you use comes with it, that is how you want it structured, and that's how you want to be doing your studying. Step 6 of a great study plan, or a great way to prepare for GMAT focus, is this: review, review, review. Again, you're learning a ton of stuff. And when you're in the moment learning something, you're probably like, I got this, I know it. But if you learn about linear and quadratic equations on week 2, and then it's week 12, and you have not looked at it since, there's going to be an issue. So what are some things you can do to review? Well, some common things are flashcards, notes. Make them as you're learning so you can use them as review vehicles later on in your prep. Flashcards are great, whether you have an app, whether you have your handmade flashcards, they are great. TTP has an awesome deck of flashcards. Any way you can get that review and do it. Because when you have flashcards available, if you have some free time during lunch or during a commute, if you're riding public transportation, you can pull them out and study them. Then there's obviously mixed review sets. You always want to be practicing questions from past topics. If you've done all of critical reasoning and now you're in the reading comprehension phase of your study plan, well, you want to practice critical reasoning questions every so often to see if any knowledge has slipped through the cracks. Same goes with math. That review is really, really important. Now, here's a little tidbit that's kind of cool. We haven't really mentioned data insights as it comes to this type of review, but what we say to do is study data insights at the end of your prep, and part of your doing and learning of data insights will function as built-in review. Here's what I mean. Table analysis, three-part analysis, those types of questions, TPA questions, table analysis questions, even MSR questions, right? When you're dealing with that question type, it's based on stuff from past topics. So what does that mean? Well, it means that you're going to be getting tested on statistics. You're going to be getting tested on percents, ratios, you name it. So it's kind of a built-in review when dealing with those questions, because what ends up happening is you basically will say, well, okay, I got a TPA statistics question wrong. Well, what does that mean? Well, do I have a gap in statistics? Probably. Oh, I got a table analysis percent question wrong. Do I have a gap in percents? Probably. So some of your review will actually be built into your learning of some of the final prep you're doing in data insights. And the reason why we say to study data insights at the end is because you're taking concepts you learned from previous quant and verbal topics and applying them to a different question type. So it only makes sense to wait to study then. So to recap, in this step, review is important. Your notes, your flashcards, your review sets, and also in there is also your error log, which you should be creating and building as you're going through and practicing questions. That's something you can also be reviewing weekly, and that review is going to help you stay on top of everything that's going on in your GMAT prep so that things don't get lost as you move forward through your preparation. All right, the final step of your preparation plan for your GMAT focus is what we call the practice test phase. So you've worked hard, you've set a schedule, you've stuck to it, right? You've done your topical learning and studying. You have done your review, you've reviewed your flashcards, your error log, and you're feeling great. Well, now it's the practice test phase. So you're going to go in, you're going to take all the available GMAT practice exams. Now, something kind of cool, the paid exams you can take multiple times and C, no repeated questions. You can take each one twice for the paid exams and you'll see new fresh questions. That's great because that takes 4 tests and that turns it into 8 tests. So you've got a lot of tests at your disposal. Now, the key is you don't want to jam these in. You don't want to take them daily. So hopefully you're giving yourself at least a month to get through the practice test phase, if not a little bit more. And ideally, you're hitting your score goals or you're close to them with each practice exam. Obviously, you don't have to be exactly there. The point is to get you geared up for test day. After each practice exam, well, first of all, when taking them, you got to be fresh. So don't jam one in after a long day of work. If necessary, do them on the weekends or a day off. When they're done, take a breather, then do a full-fledged review. Where are my weaknesses? Where are my pain points? Am I getting things wrong because of careless errors or are these content issues? Then you go back to your prep materials, you relearn, review the stuff that you feel like you have gaps in, and then you rinse and repeat with the next practice test. Ideally, you're building closer and closer and closer to test day, and your score is getting closer and closer or exceeding your target score. And look, there may be fluky tests. If one day your test is 50 points below your score goal and the one after is 50 above, these things can happen. It's all about analyzing what you're doing wrong, why you scored lower, and why you scored higher. And if you can do this and finish off your prep with a bang, there's no reason why you can't go into your GMAT focus and get the score you deserve. So let's get this done, everybody. Follow these steps, and I'm telling you, you will be in a great spot for test day. Thank you, everybody, for watching today's video. I had a blast talking about the best ways to prepare for your GMAT focus. Just stay motivated, follow these steps, and you will do well on test day. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe, leave comments if there's something else you want us to talk about. We're here for your prep. Feel free to reach out to the team at TTP anytime, and happy studying, everybody.